So most of you watching right now have no business cutting or bulking at all. Now, sorry if this winds anyone up. However, it's coming from a good place because I was in the same position where basically I was too fixated on cutting and bulking where I missed the mark completely with what actually needs to be done. First of all, let's just get this out of the way, right? Bulking and cutting are two very, very specialized terms for a very, very specific set of people. What most of you need is what we're going to explore in this video. So a load of junk, basically, right? So step one would be actually functioning like a normal human being. And if most of us stuck to a normal way of eating, none of us would be overweight, right? Not following a certain diet or not following like a certain protocol or a certain person or a way of having like shortcuts here, shortcuts there. Just a simple human way of eating, how we're supposed to eat, built for our own bodies. A lot of people will just be in shape by default. Now, what does that look like basically? So you're looking at monitoring your protein. So you keep an eye out on good amount of protein. So you have loads of sources, okay? You have obviously chicken breast, whey, eggs, yogurt, milk. From the top of my head, you've got all these sources, and obviously you've got more fattier sources. So you've got like thigh, for example, you've got beef and all. Depending on your goals, that's what we would look at. A good amount of vegetables. So again, if it's something you're trying to do in terms of gain weight or keep in a more fuller sort of look, then you're looking at potatoes, broccoli and things like that. Otherwise, you've got spinach, sweet corn, carrots. So you've got a whole plethora of food out there that actually works with us. The one thing I like to really speak about in general is if there was a car from today, so you've got your, BMW from now that runs on petrol, for example, 100,000 years down the line, it would still run on petrol. Humans, we've been around for a long, long time, and we've not had access to these highly palatable foods this whole time. We've not had that, and we've been able to survive and do well. These things are nice to have, obviously, it's part of modern living, it's good to have, but we must not forget where we missed the mark is basing our diets completely on these highly palatable foods that are around us nowadays. So for most people starting out, once you have these things dialed in, high protein, good amount of vegetables and fruits in your diet, a lot of you honestly will basically get in shape just by doing that without having to do anything extra. So we've all seen that number as well, like 90% or 95% diets fail over time. That's completely understandable, and that's why I'm actually in favor of like a system of eating, like having a baseline where it's, a lot of people have 2,000 calories of just junk or just as and when whatever. So those sort of people will always struggle to diet because you're sticking to something that's inherently a random system. It could just be, low carbs, high protein, just nothing. It's just like very rigid, strict lines. So for a lot of people, will just benefit from having a system. So like I say, have a system in terms of minimum lifting 3 times a week. If you want to do more and you can recover from more, go ahead and do more. Have a solid amount of steps that you'll have as a non-negotiable. So maybe just say 5K, 10K, whatever is good for you and your lifestyle. Have a non-negotiable that you can stick to there as well. And then basically eat accordingly. So you'd have your protein already monitored. Have a fistful of carbs. So good carbs, I suppose, would be somewhat rice, potatoes, oats, any sort of other whole wheats, paired with some fruit as well, some other dairy if you like, if that works for your system. And then have that as a baseline. And obviously, if you're now training and you're now doing your steps and you see your weight is sort of creeping up or it's going down, then you can eat accordingly depending on which side you want to go. So if you want to be a bit leaner or lose some size or fat, then you're looking into the mirror and saying, okay, I'm not really happy with what I see. All you do is that baseline is the same, you monitor your diet and you reduce the things that may be of high calories. So for example, if your fat's a bit high, you've got a handful of nuts sprinkled across all of your meals of the day, reduce them. Same with your carb sources, or are your protein sources as lean as possible that they could be. This would inherently basically give you a lot of freedom and a perfect baseline to start from. And it makes life a lot easier. If someone goes, time to bulk now, you don't start eating random things around that you find or you're struggling to fit into your calories. You just simply eat a lot more based on your system that is and how it exists. Don't need to be completely clean. I'm not saying you guys, you need to kind of just basically have whole foods completely. There's a rule, okay? You can sprinkle some food that you do enjoy here and there. This is exactly what the system gives you. When you go out to eat with your friends, or you go Nando's, you go restaurant, you can go out there and pick healthier options according to the system you built. I've not been to a single restaurant, unless it's like a proper fried burger place like Wingstop or whatever. I've not been to a nice, decent restaurant that doesn't give you options, in terms of having some grilled chicken and having some mash with it instead of a load of chips and a fried version of that same meal. And if you were to put a time on there, I would say if someone eats like this, so you have a lot of freedom, as long as sticking to a proper framework, you're probably looking at about 6 months, and then it works. You probably see a lot of composition changes in your physique, and it's not because it's magic. It's just the way the system works. It's just your body will prefer that way of eating rather than you stuffing your face with things that are highly palatable. You can have a lot more of, and there's no rhyme or reason for why you're eating the way you are. Okay, now I touched on this a little bit, how these foods are highly palatable. At the same time, unfortunately, the world we kind of live in, it's a lot easier to buy these foods. Yeah, you've got drive-through. I don't personally see it, right? In England, at least, I don't see a drive-through that provides high quality, like lean meals that are low in fat, low in calories. There's just no demand for it. Why would anyone do that? They could do that at home. When people go out and about, they want something quick, palatable, tasty. Because think about it. You right now open a drive-through that does healthy food, for example, healthy food, right? And then you see across the street there's a Burger King, there's a Pizza Hut right next to you, there's a Dunkin' Donuts right here, there's a whatever, Tim Hortons. Who's going to make the most money? It won't be you, my friend. And unfortunately, like I say, it's the world we live in, where advertisements are also geared towards this sort of thing, where people want to have these highly palatable foods. Oh, spicy dip burger, new pizza with 4 cheeses. So it doesn't help. And at the same time, because I mentioned these restaurants for a reason, or these places for a reason, the most thing I hear from anyone is, "That's too expensive, man. They priced us out." There's going to be another video coming out as a part 2 of this one. You're not being priced out. You just don't know how to eat healthy. I'm going to give you a quick overview. Why are we going into that fridge aisle in Aldi and we're buying ready cut salads, for example? Buy the iceberg lettuce, a lot cheaper. Cut that up, put it in a Ziploc, put it in your fridge. Yeah? Chips, for example. You get a whole bag of chips. I literally Googled this just before, and I'm going to go deeper into this in my second video. A whole bag of chips, I think it's a kilo, is probably around £1.65, whereas potatoes you can get 2.5 kilos for that same price, and you're looking at about 66 pence per kilo versus £1.60 per kilo with your chips. So giving a price as a reason isn't really that great. Now, time could be another thing. I completely understand that. I'm busy, I haven't got time. Which one of you right now, all you do is work? None of you watch Netflix, none of you watch Prime, none of you just lazing around in the evenings, or none of you sat down? Because when I speak to most of these people, or myself as well, back when I was kind of struggling with the same thing, why weren't my steps so high then if I wasn't just sitting around most of the time? Now I understand, family time, but I completely get that. But I'm going to do another video as well. Keep tuning in. Meal prep. I've got meals that take 20 minutes to prepare. If you can't spare 20 minutes of your own time to basically prepare your meals or do something right in terms of getting your steps in, then you need to understand you may be saving money or you're spending time with family, I understand, but you're paying with your health, not just your wallet. And having a lack of that foundation, like I spoke about the diet and the training and the eating, that lack of foundation will basically result in people jumping to extremes. You'll jump to a cut and you won't know how to. You won't know what to do. You will eat really less, or you won't eat the right food, or you'll have binging tendencies as well, or the other person will bulk. And what you do, you pig out, you have donuts. And partly I'm going to blame, I don't know if I should, but part of me wants to blame like these YouTube people, because obviously you see 10,000 calorie challenges. Oh, I've dieted for so long, I'm going to have this big ass cheat meal. I completely get it, but is it not more viable to have those sort of foods that aren't on your banned list, which there shouldn't be, I do want to reiterate that, sprinkled across your diet, but having a good baseline of how you eat? Because look, you've not meal prepped, for example, it's been an emergency, you've been dropped in the middle of an island, or this, more realistic, you suddenly have a weekend, you need to go somewhere because you have a family, you have friends, you're going out with your friends. What's your system? You've got no meal preps with you. What do you do? I've been in this position before. You have to basically, at the mercy of your meal deals, you're at mercy of whatever the restaurants provide. And because you don't have a baseline, you don't have the skill to eat properly according to how a human or actually person should be eating, healthy in that way, you just pig out. And that day is going to be a write-off, your session's going to suck, you're going to beat yourself up about it. Look, I'm not going to demonize cutting and bulking, okay? It's something that works for everyone. I hope you have watched till this part of the video. It works, okay? Bulking, cutting works. I'm speaking to the majority of people that would probably be starting fitness or are in a loop where they find themselves binging when they bulk. Because I can say this because I'm that person. I've been through that and I've come out on the other end, and I know how to eat for maintenance, for example. Right now, I am kind of bulking or in a gaining phase because I've done the hard yards where I've eaten so low to the point where I lost 47 kilos in 8 months. and then I've learned how to build back up from there. I've had many failures where I've binged and I've come back down again, but I've seen those sort of elements and what kind of helped me. My first 30 kilos just came off by eating properly. I'm going to probably put an amount to it. I think it was my first 5 kilos that dropped just because I got rid of oil, where I discovered oil spray. Making adjustments slowly as time went, learning how to eat properly, and it put me in a prime position to say, okay, perfect. Now I want to gain weight, double the potatoes, or add more rice here and there, add more. So you want to kind of be on the right side of things where majority of your foods that you do eat, you'll notice as well, I put out a satiety index in one of my last videos speaking about what foods are highly satiating, which are lowest. You'll notice the whole foods that are kind of readily available would be a lot more affordable as well, would also be a lot more satiating, so not highly palatable, like a pizza. I mean, or a burger. How many burgers can you eat? How many Big Macs can you finish? Probably 5, 6, and you're probably already on 4,000 calories just by that. Whereas with the oats, potatoes, you can have a lot more, fills you up quicker. It's a win-win scenario. Hope you found this video informative and hope you did enjoy that as well. And thank you so much for following my journey, and I really appreciate all the support recently as well. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.